Hey friends, welcome back to the Gubba Homestead. I'm Gubba and today we have a busy day on the homestead. We're going to be using up the produce that is coming in the garden that my friends have given me from their gardens and that I have also sourced from local farms. Before we get into that, make sure to subscribe so you never miss another video from the homestead, and let me walk you through the schedule of what we're going to be doing today. The first thing we're going to start with is making einkorn dinner rolls. So einkorn is an ancient grain that hasn't been modified. It's nutrient rich. It has a simple gluten structure, and this will be my first time making rolls with it. I've slowly been incorporating it. I got a flour grinder. I've made some cookies with it, but this will be our first time with rolls, so I'm excited to try it out. Next, we are going to be making a zucchini pumpkin bread. It's almost fall, so pumpkin feels suitable and it just sounds so good. If you've never had zucchini bread, you need to have zucchini bread. It's so moist and delicious and a great way to use up all the zucchini in your garden. After that, we are going to be preparing tea. So my friend gave me this Tulsi or holy basil, which smells so sweet, and we are going to put it into the dehydrator to dry out the leaves to make tea, and then I will be able to enjoy Tulsi holy basil tea for the next year. It's good for digestion, immunity, and I just love it because it's so sweet. And then after that, we are going to be making zucchini corn chowder because that sounds so good, and with all the produce I have right now, that is what made sense for dinner tonight. So let's get started.
These are the einkorn grains that I have been transitioning to slowly in my kitchen. To do so, I invested in a high quality wheat grinder. I used to have a manual one, and I still do in my supplies, but an automatic grinder like this has been so convenient. You can just pour the grains in the top and stones grind the grain into flour. The main reason for having a grinder like this is to maintain nutrient density of the grains. When you buy flour at the store, it has been highly processed, and flour loses 40% of its vitamin content in the first 24 hours after milling, and then 85 to 90% after 2 to 3 days. I am trying my best in the kitchen to retain as many nutrients as possible, so this also plays a part in my decision to transition to einkorn grain, because einkorn is an ancient grain that has not been modified. There was also an experiment on rats in Germany in the 70s where rats were fed different flours like plain white flour, flour that had been stored for 15 days after grinding, fresh stone ground flour, etc. And the rats ended up going infertile except for the rats that were fed fresh stone ground flour. And I mean, something like this really plays into a larger conspiracy for me, you know, thinking about our food system and all of the ingredients and how we are actually being poisoned by what is being put into our food and water. So that is why I am focusing in my kitchen to really maintain as many nutrients as possible, to be careful about what I'm eating, to try to be as close to the food and have a connection with my food as I possibly can, whether I'm growing it, I'm getting it from a local farm, I'm grinding the wheat berries. And after grinding, I made my yeast base like I would with any other yeast roll recipe. I'm newer to making einkorn bread products, and this will be my first time with rolls, so we will see how it goes. In the beginning of most yeast-based recipes, you let the yeast bloom with sugar, warm water, and yeast. Seriously, if you are getting into bread making, start with yeast. It's so easy. It helps you get your feet into the water, and then you can later on transition to a sourdough starter. And after the yeast has bloomed, then we continue to add in the rest of the ingredients and knead for a few minutes, and a mixer like I have, this KitchenAid, does make it pretty easy. Surprisingly, I do not like the feeling of flour, so I hardly ever knead things with my hands unless I have to. Einkorn flour creates a different texture and is more moist compared to traditional flour, so I'm still getting used to working with it. Usually when I make a dough, I know exactly what moisture content needs to be, I know how it needs to feel, but einkorn, I don't have a feel for it yet. Now the dough will rise after we've added all of our ingredients in, and I will put it in a draft-free area, like my oven to rise. While it is rising, we will go and peel all of the leaves off the stems of the Tulsi to put in the dehydrator. This took a long time and I was so happy when I was finished. For drying herbs, you want low dry temperatures in the 90s to low hundreds, and to check on them every 5 to 6 hours to see their progress. You want them to be crumbly, to be dry like you would have a dry tea leaf. So we got that started, and then we headed over to make our zucchini bread.
Now that we're done with the tea, we are going to do our zucchini bread. So if you remember, we have the einkorn rolls that have been rising. Once we get the zucchini bread in the oven, we're gonna take the einkorn rolls out, punch it down, and then form the rolls. And then the rolls will rise about the time that the zucchini bread is in the oven, about 45 to 50 minutes. And we'll put the rolls in and we are just rolling. So we are doing zucchini pumpkin swirl bread. Again, this is another first recipe. I do the cinnamon swirl bread with zucchini, but adding in some pumpkin because it's fall. So let's get started.
So much zucchini is coming into the garden. So zucchini bread is one of the tastiest ways, in my opinion, to eat zucchini. I mean, who doesn't love a sweet and tasty bread? And it even has like a crunchy top. So here I just shredded the zucchini and mixed together all of the ingredients. It is always important to not over incorporate the dry ingredients when making bread, so fold until just incorporated. I seriously cannot express how much I love zucchini bread. You can even make other zucchini desserts like zucchini crumbles, and it will taste like an apple crumble. Zucchini is so good cooked down, and when you add in the sugar, you can't even tell the difference between like an apple bake or a zucchini bake. You can make a zucchini pie and pass it for an apple pie. For zucchini cinnamon swirl bread, you pour half of the batter into the prepared bread dish, then sprinkle with cinnamon sugar, then add on the other half of the batter and top with the rest with cinnamon sugar. So yes, this is a sugary bread, but you know what? It's delicious. We deserve a little sweetness now and then, right? I put that into the oven to bake, and I got out our einkorn dough, which has been rising. And honestly, I was a little concerned to see how wet it still was, and you will see why, but we are all learning here. That's what homesteading is about. It is about learning, and a great place to learn is in your kitchen.
So we just put our zucchini, cinnamon, pumpkin swirl bread in the oven. We got our einkorn roll dough out, and it is a more wet dough than I'm used to working with. And again, that's because of just how einkorn is. It doesn't absorb as much moisture as like an all-purpose flour, but we're just gonna try. I am so curious to see how this turns out. I'm really hoping it turns out. From what I've read, they're supposed to be moist. So now I'm going to butter this pan, make some sticky rolls, and then we will let them rise while the zucchini bread is in the oven, and then they'll be ready to go after the zucchini bread. So I'm gonna punch down the dough, sticky, which again, when I make rolls, the dough's not generally sticky, but I really want this to work out. So I got the einkorn wheat berries. Oh wow, we're just gonna plop that in and just go from there. It is a learning process, just like if you were learning how to, yeah, I'm not so sure about this because they are, well, we're just gonna see. If you were just learning how to make dinner rolls, even with all-purpose flour, you know, there's a learning curve. So I am trying a brand new flour that I've never tried before. Seems to be a bit moist and goopy. I've done baked goods, and I did do a loaf, which obviously the texture of the einkorn loaf that I did, way different than, you know, normal. What I'm thinking is like when I made the einkorn bread loaf, I mean, I just put all this into a pan, you know, a bread pan, but now I'm doing dinner rolls and they're just kind of, I'll show you in a second. They're just kind of squishing out. So one of my favorite recipes is English muffin sourdough bread. And I discovered doing that because I just used to make the little English muffins, and I was like, man, what if I just put this into a loaf pan and baked it for a bit? And now it's one of my favorite things ever because it's so delicious. So sometimes you just gotta try. These kind of flattened out like cookies. But I'm hopeful. So when I say they look like a cookie, they look like a cookie, but maybe I'll just be having a bread cookie with soup for dinner, and I'm totally okay with that. So again, einkorn and grinding it is a bit newer to me, especially with the dinner rolls. I have red hard wheat, white wheat berries in my food storage, so those I'm just going to keep experimenting, see what works. I really want einkorn to work in my kitchen, so I just might have to try a different dinner roll. I'm thinking maybe they got overproofed. Overproofing can make it so then now they are not going to rise like they should. I'm not sure, but we're gonna see this whole process through. I'm going to put these in the oven. The oven on the right side is not on. It's just an enclosed space and it's a little warm, and hopefully we'll help them rise a bit. But it's looking like we're gonna have some bread cookies. It's time. The kitchen smells divine, like pumpkin, like fall. The zucchini bread, I believe, is done. At least the timer's up. And in the meantime, I was able to prep all of the veggies, and I will show you the einkorn rolls in a moment, but let's get our zucchini bread out. Yum. Yum, 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 yum. So this will make up for, you know, quite possibly what the rolls may become, because this smells amazing. This looks amazing, and I might just have this for dinner. Okay, so these are our einkorn rolls, but we're just gonna go with, it's like an einkorn dinner, shortbread, flat loaf, maybe a focaccia twist, all right? So I'm gonna put these in the oven for about 20 minutes, and we're gonna see how they turn out. I have no clue, but just remember how good that zucchini loaf looked, okay? Because it smells divine. So when you're thinking, oh man, Gubba doesn't know what's going on, think of the zucchini loaf. Okay, these are going in the oven now. Now let's start on our soup.
Soup was my go-to option for today because it was a cold and rainy day. I chopped up all of my veggies. Something super convenient is that I had canned items, broth and carrots to be used for this. I try to use these for my food storage because I can so much broth. It's so easy. So I need to make recipes that use it. And there was actually a severe thunderstorm going on while I was filming this, and the winds were so strong. I watched my apple tree snap in half. I was so sad about my apple tree splitting in half. I mean, I was even sad. In the middle of the night, I woke up and I was just gutted thinking about my poor apple tree. I love these apples so much. This tree gave me an abundance of apples last year, and I just love this tree so much, but I think it will survive. Just half of it is now standing. But it was a perfect evening for soup, especially when I had zucchini and corn on hand. And to make this soup a traditional chowder, I blended about half of it and added it back in. You can use an immersion blender for ease, but mine broke and I need to get a new one. I let this simmer for a bit for the flavors to meld together, and I honestly couldn't wait to eat because I was so hungry by this time.
All right, we are finally all done. We got the chowder, we have the pumpkin swirl bread, we still have the tea leaves going, but these are how the rolls turned out. But as you can see, like the crumb is fluffy, and I have two things that I'm thinking right now. This is either gonna be like a cornbread texture, and in the future I could add some cornmeal, do like an einkorn cornbread, or again, depending how it tastes, I was thinking that this would be like the perfect little like honey glaze, like bread, but it's like a dessert bread, or dessert cake, and you have the little like honey cream cheese frosting on top. So we're gonna dive in and give it a try. I'm hungry, it's been a long day. I actually just got back in from milking the goats as I was letting everything simmer. I love chowders. This is totally a transition into fall. Okay. It has the taste of a roll, but it's fluffy, but not roll texture. Again, you can see the crumb on it. I'm sitting here thinking, if I added more sugar into this and then did the honey glaze, this would be like a good little sweet cake or like a sheet cake. I'm gonna put some chowder on it. This is what I needed. Today was such a long day. Oh my goodness. This is like the perfect little homestead meal. Okay. And now the zucchini pumpkin cinnamon bread. It tastes so good. It tastes like fall. So yes, thank you so much for joining me on my homestead for a dinner. But I appreciate you being here. I'm gonna go finish this because I'm really hungry. Thank you for making dinner with me. Thank you for making dessert with me. And just making some good homestead hearty meals. This kind of reminds me of something my mom would make. So I will see you guys next time. Don't do anything you Gubba wouldn't do. And if you have any suggestions, the bread's messy now, but if you have any suggestions on the rolls, where I went wrong, what you think could be good, let me know down in the comments. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye!